The 911 call came in at 10:47 p.m. on October 16th, 2019. There's been a shooting at CU Medicine. A man, he just fired shots inside the building. Inside the darkened hallways of a medical office in Boulder, Colorado, 64-year-old Ashley Marie Amos lay on the floor, blood pooling beneath her. The overhead fluorescent lights flickered intermittently, casting shadows across the empty waiting room. Outside, patrol cars screamed toward the location, their sirens cutting through the quiet mountain air. The shooter was gone. But what police would discover in the coming hours wasn't just another senseless act of violence. It was a catastrophic collapse of a man who had once stood among giants, a former NFL defensive tackle whose hands had battled 300-pound offensive linemen, now trembling around a semi-automatic handgun. Justin Bannan had been a warrior on the football field, a fan favorite, a man who'd earned millions playing the game he loved. Tonight, he'd become something else entirely. The question wasn't just what happened in that medical office. The question was how. How does a man travel from the roaring stadiums of the National Football League to a dimly lit hallway with a gun in his hand and terror in his eyes? This is that story. If you are new to this channel, please subscribe to True Crime Zone, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now, let's continue to understand the man who walked into that medical building. You have to understand the boy who fell in love with football. Justin Dwayne Bannan was born on April 18, 1979, in Sacramento, California. His childhood was unremarkable in most ways, a middle-class upbringing in suburban America during the 1980s and early 1990s. His father worked in construction. His mother managed a household. Justin was the second of 3 children, and from an early age, he exhibited the kind of physical coordination that made coaches take notice. But it wasn't just his athleticism that set him apart. It was his intensity. Former teachers and coaches from Justin's youth describe a boy who approached every task with singular focus. When he played Little League baseball, he studied the mechanics of his swing until his hands blistered. When he joined Pop Warner football at age 9, he memorized offensive schemes designed for high school players. Justin wasn't the biggest kid, recalled Tom Henderson, his youth football coach, but he was the smartest. He understood leverage, angles, how to read an offense. Most kids that age are just running around. Justin was thinking 3 plays ahead. By the time Bannan reached Deer Valley High School in Antioch, California, he had transformed his body through relentless weight training and discipline. At 6'3" and 240 pounds, he dominated the defensive line, earning first-team All-League honors his junior and senior years. College recruiters took notice, but Justin wasn't a 5-star prospect. He wasn't the kind of player who graced the covers of recruiting magazines. He was something better, underestimated. The University of Colorado offered him a scholarship in 1997, and Justin accepted without hesitation. Boulder, nestled against the Rocky Mountains, would become his home for the next 4 years. More importantly, it would become the place where he transformed from a talented high school player into a legitimate NFL prospect. At Colorado, Bannan played defensive tackle for Buffaloes under coach Rick Neuheisel. The transition to college football is brutal for most freshmen. The speed of the game, the size of the opponents, the complexity of the schemes. But Justin adapted quickly. By his sophomore year, he was starting. By his junior year, he was dominating. His playing style was aggressive, relentless. He possessed an unusual combination of strength and quickness for his size, allowing him to penetrate offensive lines and disrupt plays in the backfield. Offensive coordinators game planned specifically to stop him. Double teams became routine. It didn't matter. During his senior season in 2001, Bannan recorded 72 tackles and 7 sacks, earning second-team All-Big 12 honors. NFL scouts filled the stands at Colorado's home games, stopwatches and notebooks in hand, charting his every move. The consensus was clear. Justin Bannan was an NFL-caliber player. But there was a caveat. He was undersized for a defensive tackle at the professional level, where 300-pound behemoths were the norm. Some scouts projected him as a late-round pick. Others suggested he might go undrafted entirely. When the 2002 NFL draft arrived, Justin sat in his apartment with his family, watching the television as teams made their selections. The first round passed. then the second, the third, fourth, fifth. Finally, in the fifth round, with the 162nd overall pick, the Buffalo Bills selected Justin Bannan. He'd made it. The National Football League is a dream factory, but it's also a meat grinder. Every year, roughly 250 college players are drafted into the NFL. Within 3 years, more than half will be out of the league entirely. The attrition rate is staggering, merciless. Talent alone isn't enough. You need durability, adaptability, and almost inhuman tolerance for pain. Justin Bannan had all three. His rookie season with the Buffalo Bills in 2002 was a learning experience. He appeared in 11 games, mostly on special teams, recording just 6 tackles. The coaching staff liked his work ethic and intelligence, but he was buried on the depth chart behind veteran defensive tackles Sam Adams and Ted Washington, 2 of the largest human beings on the planet. The following year, Bannan's playing time increased. He appeared in all 16 games, making 10 starts and recording 43 tackles. He was developing a reputation as a versatile lineman who could play multiple positions along the defensive front. Coaches valued that flexibility, but Buffalo was struggling. The Bills hadn't made the playoffs since 1999, and the organization was in flux. After the 2005 season, with his contract expiring, Justin entered free agency. The Baltimore Ravens came calling. Baltimore was and remains a franchise built on defensive excellence. Their fan base worshiped hard-hitting linebackers and dominant defensive lines. Playing for the Ravens meant joining a brotherhood of defensive players who took pride in punishment, in shutting down offenses, in making quarterbacks afraid. Justin signed a 1-year contract in March 2006. That season, he appeared in 14 games for Baltimore, recording 18 tackles. It was a solid, if unspectacular, performance, but it was enough to catch the attention of another team looking to bolster its defensive line, the Denver Broncos. In March 2007, Justin Bannan signed a multi-year contract with Denver worth millions of dollars. He was coming home, not to California, but to Colorado, where his college career had flourished. Boulder and Denver were less than 30 miles apart. The Rocky Mountains, which had served as a backdrop to his transformation into an NFL prospect, would now watch him play professional football. For the next 4 years, Justin Bannan was a cornerstone of the Denver Broncos' defensive line. He wasn't a Pro Bowler. He wasn't a household name. But he was exactly the kind of player championship teams are built on. Consistent, intelligent, durable. From 2007 through 2010, Bannan appeared in 61 games for Denver, starting 47 of them. He recorded over 200 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, and 8 sacks. Teammates respected him. Coaches trusted him. Fans appreciated his workmanlike approach to the game. Off the field, Justin was known as quiet, cerebral. He didn't court media attention or controversy. He showed up, did his job, went home. He invested his money wisely, purchasing real estate and planning for life after football. He maintained relationships with former teammates and coaches. By all outward appearances, he was doing everything right. But football, especially at the professional level, exacts a toll. Every snap, every collision, every pile-up at the line of scrimmage involves forces that the human body wasn't designed to withstand. Defensive linemen, who spend entire games locked in hand-to-hand combat with offensive linemen, absorb particularly brutal punishment. Their heads snap back and forth. Their necks compress. Their brains rattle inside their skulls. Thousands of times per season. Over the course of his NFL career, Justin Bannan played in 137 games. Conservative estimates suggest he experienced well over 10,000 individual collisions during practices, games, and training camps. How many of those collisions caused concussions? Nobody knows. During the era when Justin played, the 2000s and early 2010s, the NFL's concussion protocols were primitive compared to today's standards. Players routinely returned to games after having their bell rung. Team doctors administered smelling salts on the sidelines. The culture glorified toughness, playing through pain, sacrificing your body for the team. Justin Bannan embodied that culture. He never missed significant time due to head injuries. He was never placed in concussion protocol. because for most of his career, such protocols barely existed. He was tough. He was reliable. But inside his skull, something was changing. In 2011, after 5 seasons with Denver, Justin Bannan signed with the St. Louis Rams. He played 1 season in St. Louis, appearing in all 16 games and recording 31 tackles. It would be his final year as a full-time starter. The following season, 2012, he signed with the Detroit Lions. He appeared in just 6 games, recording 3 tackles. His body was breaking down. The explosiveness that had defined his playing style was gone, eroded by years of punishment. In December 2012, at age 33, Justin Bannan announced his retirement from the NFL. 11 seasons, 137 games, millions of dollars earned. For most athletes, retirement is the beginning of a crisis. Your entire adult life has been structured around a game, around practices and film sessions and team meetings. Your identity is wrapped up in being a football player. Your social circle consists of teammates. Your daily routine revolves around training. And then it's over. Suddenly, you're 33 years old with no job, no structure, no purpose. The roar of the crowd is gone. The camaraderie is gone. The adrenaline is gone. What remains is silence. And for many former NFL players, that silence is deafening. Justin struggled with the transition, though he hid it well. He'd been financially prudent during his playing career, so money wasn't an immediate concern. He'd purchased property in Colorado and California. He had investments. He could afford to take time figuring out his next move. But the physical toll of football was becoming harder to ignore. His knees ached constantly. His back caused chronic pain. He'd wake up in the morning feeling like he'd been in a car accident. These were normal, expected consequences of an NFL career. Every former player dealt with similar issues. The mental symptoms were harder to identify. Justin became withdrawn. Friends and former teammates noticed he was less responsive to calls and text messages. When they did speak with him, he seemed distracted, distant. He mentioned having trouble sleeping, trouble concentrating. He complained of headaches. Again, these symptoms weren't unusual for recently retired players. The transition from the structured chaos of professional football to civilian life is jarring. Depression and anxiety are common. Most players adjust eventually. But Justin's symptoms weren't improving. They were worsening. He began having thoughts that frightened him. Intrusive, paranoid thoughts that people were watching him, that he was in danger. He heard sounds that weren't there. He became convinced that someone had installed surveillance equipment in his home. These weren't the normal struggles of athletic retirement. This was something else. In 2015, 3 years after retiring from football, Justin Bannan began seeking medical help for what he described as severe anxiety and paranoia. He visited multiple doctors in Colorado, describing his symptoms: the intrusive thoughts, the auditory hallucinations, the overwhelming sense that he was being monitored or followed. He was prescribed anti-anxiety medications. They didn't help. He tried therapy. It provided minimal relief. The symptoms continued to intensify. Justin became convinced that someone, he couldn't identify who, was poisoning him. He started avoiding certain foods. He would only drink from sealed bottles. He became obsessed with the idea that his symptoms were the result of external attack rather than internal dysfunction. His family grew concerned. They encouraged him to continue seeking treatment, to try different doctors, different medications. Justin complied, but with growing frustration. Nothing seemed to work. The medical establishment, he felt, wasn't taking his concerns seriously. They were treating him for anxiety when something far more sinister was happening. That word, sinister, began appearing frequently in Justin's communications with friends and family. Someone was doing this to him. Someone was trying to hurt him. He just had to figure out who. By 2017, Justin Bannan's mental state had deteriorated significantly. He was now convinced that a Russian crime syndicate was targeting him, though he couldn't articulate why. In conversations with friends, he would reference the Russians as though it were self-evident who he was talking about and what they wanted. When pressed for details, he became evasive or agitated. His behavior grew increasingly erratic. He would drive for hours at random, convinced he was being followed. He began carrying a handgun for protection, legal in Colorado, where he maintained residency. He installed security cameras around his property and checked them obsessively, scrutinizing footage for evidence of intruders. Those closest to Justin recognized that something was seriously wrong, but they were powerless to force him into treatment. He was an adult. He wasn't in immediate danger to himself or others. The legal standard for involuntary commitment. He was just struggling. And in America, struggling isn't a crime. The medical community now understands that former NFL players face dramatically elevated risks of certain neurological conditions, particularly chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE. This degenerative brain disease is caused by repeated head trauma and can result in memory loss, confusion, impaired judgment, aggression, depression, anxiety, and paranoia. CTE can only be definitively diagnosed after death, through examination of brain tissue. But the symptoms Justin was experiencing, the paranoia, the auditory hallucinations, the erratic behavior, were consistent with CTE. Was Justin Bannan suffering from football-related brain damage? The answer would have to wait. In 2018, Justin's paranoia reached new heights. He became convinced that the Russian crime organization targeting him was operating out of a medical facility in Boulder, specifically a place called CU Medicine, part of the University of Colorado health system. The logic of this belief was impossible to follow. When Justin tried to explain it to friends and family, his explanations were rambling, incoherent. He spoke about energy weapons and frequency attacks. He claimed the medical facility was using advanced technology to transmit harmful radiation into his body, causing his symptoms. His family pleaded with him to seek psychiatric help. They offered to pay for treatment at the finest facilities in the country. Justin refused. He didn't need psychiatric treatment. He insisted. He needed protection. He needed someone to take his concerns seriously. In early 2019, Justin purchased a second handgun, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. Throughout that year, his mental state continued to deteriorate. The paranoia became all-consuming. He spent hours researching conspiracy theories online, finding communities of people who shared his beliefs about government surveillance, electromagnetic weapons, organized stalking. These online communities validated his fears, reinforced his paranoia. They told him he wasn't crazy. They told him he was targeted. They told him to protect himself. By October 2019, Justin Bannan had become convinced that he needed to take action against the people who were harming him. The medical facility in Boulder, CU Medicine, was the center of the conspiracy. If he could get inside, if he could find evidence, if he could stop them, he could make the torture end. The morning of October 16, 2019, began like any other at the CU Medicine building on Arapahoe Avenue in Boulder. The facility houses multiple medical offices, family medicine, internal medicine, specialty clinics. Patients come and go throughout the day, checking in for appointments, picking up prescriptions, consulting with doctors. The staff, receptionists, nurses, physicians, follow their routines, unaware that this particular Wednesday will shatter their sense of safety forever. Ashley Marie Amos, 64 years old, had worked at the CU Medicine facility for several years. Colleagues describe her as warm, dedicated, the kind of person who remembered patients' names and asked about their families. She was a grandmother. She loved gardening. She was 2 years from retirement. At approximately 10 p.m. that evening, Ashley was working late, finishing up administrative tasks. Most of the staff had gone home. The building was quiet, nearly empty. Justin Bannan entered through the main entrance. He was carrying a black duffel bag. Security footage would later show him walking to the lobby with deliberate purpose, his face expressionless. He didn't check in at the reception desk. He didn't speak to anyone. He moved through the corridors like a man on a mission, turning left down a hallway, then right. He was looking for something, or someone. At 10:43 p.m., Ashley Marie Amos encountered Justin Bannan in one of the administrative areas of the building. What words, if any, were exchanged between them will never be fully known. Ashley likely didn't recognize the large, muscular man standing before her. She might have asked if he needed help, if he was lost, Justin removed a 9mm semi-automatic pistol from the duffel bag. Ashley ran. Justin fired. The first shot missed, striking a wall. The second shot hit Ashley in the back as she tried to flee down the hallway. She fell, her body crumpling against the linoleum floor. Justin stood over her and fired several more times. Then he left the building. At 10:47 p.m., a staff member who had heard the gunshots called 911. Police and emergency medical services were dispatched immediately. Officers arrived within minutes, securing the scene and locating Ashley Amos. She was still alive, but barely. An ambulance rushed her to Boulder Community Health Foothills Hospital, less than 2 miles away. Surgeons worked frantically to save her life, but the damage was catastrophic. Ashley had been shot multiple times in the back and torso. She died during surgery. Meanwhile, Boulder police began searching for the shooter. Security footage provided a clear image of the suspect, but identifying him would take time. They issued an alert to law enforcement agencies across the region, warning of an armed and dangerous suspect. They had no idea they were looking for a former NFL player. Justin Bannan fled the CU Medicine building in his vehicle and drove into the night. Where was he going? What was his plan? Later testimony would suggest he didn't have one. The shooting wasn't the calculated action of a criminal mastermind. It was a chaotic, disorganized act of a man whose grip on reality had completely dissolved. In the hours after the shooting, Justin drove aimlessly through Boulder County, his mind racing. He later described experiencing auditory hallucinations, voices telling him he was in danger, that people were coming for him. He believed that by going to the medical facility, he had exposed a conspiracy, and now they would retaliate. At approximately 1:30 a.m. on October 17th, less than 3 hours after the shooting, Justin called a friend. The conversation was brief and bizarre. Justin spoke rapidly, incoherently, about Russians and surveillance and needing to disappear. The friend, alarmed, tried to find out where Justin was calling from. Justin hung up. That same friend immediately contacted police, sharing their concerns that Justin Bannan might be involved in the Boulder shooting. The friend provided Justin's name, physical description, and possible vehicle information. Boulder detectives ran Justin's name through their database. What they found was shocking. A former NFL player with no criminal record, no history of violence, no obvious connection to the victim or the medical facility. But his name matched the physical description from security footage, and a friend's call about Justin's deteriorating mental state provided crucial context. Police obtained a warrant for Justin's arrest on suspicion of first-degree murder. Now they just had to find him. Justin, meanwhile, had driven to a remote area in the foothills west of Boulder. He abandoned his vehicle and continued on foot, carrying his duffel bag and the 9mm pistol. He later described believing he was being pursued by helicopters and drones, though no such aircraft were in the area. He walked for hours through the darkness, stumbling over rocks and brush, convinced that every sound was evidence of pursuers closing in. As dawn broke on October 17th, exhausted and disoriented, Justin found himself on a rural property belonging to a family he didn't know. He approached the house and knocked on the door. The homeowner, a man in his 50s, answered. He found Justin standing on his porch, a large, disheveled man covered in dirt and scratches, wild-eyed and breathing heavily. "I need help," Justin said. "They're after me." The homeowner, sensing something was very wrong, told Justin to wait outside and close the door. He immediately called 911, reporting a suspicious person on his property who appeared to be having some kind of mental health crisis. Boulder County Sheriff's deputies arrived within 10 minutes. They found Justin sitting on the ground near the property line, the duffel bag beside him. He didn't resist when officers approached. He seemed almost relieved. "Am I safe now?" Justin asked as they placed him in handcuffs. Officers searched the duffel bag and found a 9mm pistol, the same weapon used to kill Ashley Amos. Ballistics testing would later confirm the match. Justin Bannan was placed under arrest and transported to Boulder County Jail. The former NFL defensive tackle, who had spent years battling offensive linemen in packed stadiums, was now facing a battle of a very different kind, a battle for his life. In the days following Justin Bannan's arrest, Boulder police worked to piece together the full picture of what had happened. They interviewed staff members from the CU Medicine facility. They reviewed security footage. They analyzed the crime scene. They examined Justin's phone records, social media accounts, and financial transactions. What emerged was a portrait of a man in the grip of severe mental illness. Justin had visited the CU Medicine facility multiple times in the months leading up to the shooting, always exhibiting paranoid behavior. He had made bizarre accusations to staff members about being monitored and attacked. He had demanded access to areas of the building that were off limits to patients, becoming agitated when denied. Security had been called on at least 2 occasions to escort him from the premises, but no formal complaints had been filed. The staff interpreted his behavior as stemming from mental health issues rather than violent intent. They felt sympathy for him more than fear. That would prove to be a fatal miscalculation. Investigators also discovered that Justin had no personal connection to Ashley Marie Amos whatsoever. They had never met before the night of the shooting. Ashley wasn't involved in any of Justin's medical care. She had no connection to Russia, organized crime, or any conspiracy. She was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Justin, in his delusional state, had fixated on the CU Medicine building as the source of his torment. When he entered the building that night, he wasn't targeting Ashley specifically. He was targeting the conspiracy he believed existed within those walls. Ashley died because she happened to be there when a deeply sick man's paranoid delusions boiled over into violence. As news of Justin's arrest spread, the media descended on Boulder. The story had all the elements that captured public attention. A former NFL player, a seemingly random murder, questions about brain damage and football's long-term effects. Journalists dug into Justin's background, interviewing former teammates, coaches, and friends. Most expressed shock and sadness. They described a kind, intelligent man who had loved football and lived quietly. None could reconcile that person with the one accused of murder. "This isn't the Justin I knew," said a former Denver Broncos teammate. "Something happened to him. Something broke." The NFL, for its part, released a carefully worded statement expressing condolences to the victim's family while avoiding any acknowledgement of potential connections between football and Justin's mental state. But the question hung in the air, unspoken but obvious. Did football do this to Justin Bannan? Justin Bannan was formally charged with first-degree murder, a charge that in Colorado carries a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. His defense team, led by prominent criminal defense attorney Daniel Garash, faced an enormous challenge. The evidence against Justin was overwhelming. Security footage showed him entering the building. Ballistics matched his weapon to the fatal shots. Multiple witnesses could testify to his paranoid behavior in the months leading up to the shooting. But Garash believed there was another story to tell. The story of a man whose brain had been destroyed by a sport that made billions of dollars off his body. The defense strategy would center on 2 arguments: that Justin was not guilty by reason of insanity, and that his mental illness was directly caused by chronic traumatic encephalopathy resulting from his NFL career. Proving insanity in court is notoriously difficult. The legal standard in Colorado requires demonstrating that the defendant was so impaired at the time of the crime that they couldn't distinguish right from wrong. Having a mental illness isn't enough. Even having severe delusions isn't enough. The illness must be so profound that it eliminates moral culpability. The defense hired multiple expert witnesses, psychiatrists, neurologists, forensic psychologists. They would testify that Justin was suffering from severe paranoid delusions at the time of the shooting, that he genuinely believed he was defending himself against a conspiracy targeting his life. They would also introduce evidence about CTE. Dr. Bannan, the forensic pathologist who first discovered CTE in NFL players and whose work was dramatized in the film Concussion, agreed to consult on the case. While CTE can only be definitively diagnosed posthumously, Dr. Omalu reviewed Justin's medical records, playing history and behavioral changes. His conclusion: Justin Bannan exhibited a symptom pattern entirely consistent with advanced CTE. The defense team also pointed to similar cases involving former NFL players. Aaron Hernandez, the former New England Patriots tight end who committed suicide in prison while serving a life sentence for murder, was found to have stage 3 CTE. the most severe case ever observed in someone his age. Junior So, the legendary linebacker who killed himself in 2012, had CT. Dave Durson, another former NFL player who died by suicide, specifically shot himself in the chest rather than the head, so his brain could be studied. It showed CT. The pattern was undeniable. But would it matter in court? The prosecution, led by Boulder County District Attorney Michael Dougherty, countered that while Justin's mental health issues were tragic, they didn't absolve him of legal responsibility. Justin had known shooting someone was wrong. He had fled the scene. He had attempted to evade capture. These actions demonstrated consciousness of guilt. Moreover, the prosecution argued accepting a CT defense would set a dangerous precedent. Thousands of former NFL players exist in the United States. If brain damage from football became an acceptable excuse for murder, where would it end? The legal battle would be fierce, technical, and emotionally devastating. For Justin's family, it was agony. They knew the man they loved wasn't the man who killed Ashley Amos. But they also knew that Ashley's family deserved justice. There were no good outcomes here, only varying degrees of tragedy. As the case moved through pre-trial proceedings, both sides prepared for what would likely be a lengthy trial. Jury selection alone could take weeks. Expert testimony would consume days of court time. The media coverage would be relentless. But then something unexpected happened. In August 2021, nearly 2 years after shooting, Justin Bannan's legal team reached a plea agreement with prosecutors. Under the agreement, Justin would plead guilty to second-degree murder in exchange for the first-degree murder charge being dropped. Second-degree murder in Colorado carries a sentence of 16 to 48 years in prison, but crucially, it doesn't require mandatory life without parole. Why did both sides agree to this deal? For the prosecution, a plea agreement guaranteed a conviction and a lengthy prison sentence without the uncertainty of trial. Insanity defenses are unpredictable. Juries are unpredictable. There was a real risk, however small, that a jury might acquit Justin or convict him on lesser charges. For the defense, the plea agreement acknowledged Justin's mental illness while ensuring he wouldn't die in prison. At 42 years old, even a 30-year sentence meant Justin would be in his 70s before potential release. But it was better than life without parole. It was a measure of mercy in an unmerciful situation. Most importantly, both sides wanted to spare Ashley Amos's family the trauma of a trial, forcing her loved ones to sit through weeks of testimony, to relive her final moments again and again, seemed needlessly cruel. On August 23rd, 2021, Justin Bannan appeared in Boulder County District Court to formally enter his plea. He wore an orange jail jumpsuit. His once powerful frame had thinned during 2 years of incarceration. His face was gaunt, aged beyond his years. When Judge Judith Labuda asked how he pleaded to the charge of second-degree murder, Justin stood and spoke clearly, "Guilty, Your Honor." The courtroom was silent. Ashley's family sat in the gallery, their faces etched with grief and exhaustion. They had waited 2 years for this moment. It brought them no joy. Sentencing was scheduled for November 2021. On November 30th, 2021, Justin Bannan returned to Boulder County District Court for sentencing. This hearing would give Ashley Amos's family their first opportunity to address Justin directly, to speak about their loss and their pain. It would also give Justin a chance to explain himself, to apologize, to offer whatever words might provide even minimal comfort. The hearing began with victim impact statements. Ashley's daughter spoke first, her voice breaking as she described her mother's kindness, her dedication to her grandchildren, her love of life. She talked about the hole Ashley's death had left in their family, how holidays were now filled with absence and grief. "My mother died terrified and in pain," she said, looking directly at Justin. "She died because of you. Nothing can change that. Nothing can bring her back." Other family members followed, each adding their own memories and anguish. By the time they finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Then it was Justin's turn to speak. He stood slowly, his hands shaking. When he began to talk, his voice was barely audible. "I am so sorry," he said. "There are no words that can express the depth of my remorse. I took an innocent life. I destroyed families. I caused unimaginable pain. He paused, composing himself. I was very sick. I know that doesn't excuse what I did. It doesn't bring Ms. Amos back. But I want her family to know that I wasn't in my right mind. I believed things that weren't true. I was living in a nightmare of paranoia and delusion. He continued, his voice growing stronger. I spent 11 years playing in the NFL. I love football. It gave me everything, an education, a career, financial security. But it also damaged me in ways I didn't understand until it was too late. The hits I took, the concussions I played through, they changed my brain. They changed who I was. Several members of Ashley's family stood and left the courtroom. They didn't want to hear about Justin's suffering. They didn't want to hear about CTE or football or anything that might mitigate his responsibility. Judge Labuda allowed Justin to finish his statement, then addressed the court. "This is a case of profound tragedy," she said. "Ms. Amos was a beloved member of this community who died senselessly and violently. No sentence I impose can restore her life or heal her family's pain." She turned to Justin. "Mr. Bannan, I've reviewed the extensive psychological evaluations in this case. I've considered the evidence regarding your mental state at the time of the offense. While I believe you were suffering from serious mental illness, I also believe you understood that taking a life was wrong. You made a choice that night, however impaired your judgment may have been." She paused. "I hereby sentence you to 35 years in the Colorado Department of Corrections." Justin showed no reaction. He had expected as much. 35 years. He would be 77 years old if he served the full sentence. His football career was over. His freedom was over. His life, in any meaningful sense, was over. But he was alive. Ashley Amos was not. Justin Bannan is currently incarcerated at the Sterling Correctional Facility in Sterling, Colorado, a medium-security prison about 130 miles northeast of Denver. His daily routine is governed by the rhythms of institutional life. Meals at fixed times, work assignments, limited recreation, endless hours in a cell. It's a far cry from the stadiums and practice facilities where he once spent his days. In prison, Justin has reportedly been compliant and nonviolent. He participates in mental health programming and takes medications to manage his psychiatric symptoms. The paranoid delusions that consumed him in 2019 have largely subsided, controlled by antipsychotic drugs. But the awareness of what he did, of the life he took, haunts him constantly. Fellow inmates who've spoken to journalists describe Justin as withdrawn and remorseful. He doesn't talk about his NFL career. He doesn't seek special treatment or recognition. He exists quietly, serving his time, trying to make sense of how his life led to this moment. His case has become part of a larger conversation about football and brain damage. In the years since Justin's sentencing, the NFL has faced increasing pressure to address the long-term neurological effects of playing football. Research into CTE has expanded dramatically. Former players have sued the league, alleging that it knew about the dangers of repeated head trauma, but concealed that information to protect profits. In 2013, the NFL settled a class action lawsuit with thousands of former players for $765 million. The settlement provides compensation for players suffering from neurological conditions linked to football, but the money can't restore damaged brains. It can't prevent violence. It can't bring back Ashley Amos. The NFL has implemented new safety protocols, stricter concussion policies, improved helmet technology, rules changes designed to reduce head impacts. Critics argue these changes are too little, too late, and that no amount of rule modification can make football truly safe. The sport's fundamental nature, large, fast men colliding violently, guarantees brain trauma. Some researchers believe football as currently played will eventually disappear, liability and medical evidence making it impossible to sustain. Others think the sport is too culturally embedded in America to die, regardless of the risks. Meanwhile, thousands of former players live with the consequences of their careers. Many suffer from chronic pain, mobility issues, and cognitive decline. Some develop CTE and experience the same paranoid delusions, mood swings, and behavioral changes that afflicted Justin Bannan. A few turn violent. Most suffer silently. The The Justin Bannan case forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about responsibility, culpability, and the price of entertainment. If Justin's brain was damaged by football, who bears responsibility for what happened to Ashley Amos? Is it Justin himself, who made the choice to play football, who continued playing despite injuries and warning signs? Is it the NFL, which profited enormously from Justin's labor while allegedly concealing the long-term risks? Is it the fans who fill stadiums and generate television ratings, creating the financial incentives that perpetuate the sport? Is it all of us, a society that celebrates violence in sports while looking away from its consequences? There are no easy answers. Justin pulled the trigger. He ended Ashley's life. That fact is immutable, regardless of mitigating circumstances. Ashley's family lost a mother, a grandmother, a friend. Their grief is real and permanent. But Justin lost himself long before he entered that medical building. The man who murdered Ashley Amos wasn't the same person who played football at the University of Colorado, who signed autographs for children in Denver, who quietly invested his money and planned for a peaceful retirement. That man was destroyed by repeated traumatic brain injuries, sustained in pursuit of athletic glory. Both things can be true simultaneously. Justin is guilty and Justin is a victim. The American criminal justice system struggles with this ambiguity. We want clear categories: innocent or guilty, victim or perpetrator. Cases like Justin's that blur those categories make us uncomfortable. We want someone to blame. But what if blame is insufficient? What if the real question isn't who's responsible, but rather, how do we prevent this from happening again? Ashley Marie Amos's family established a scholarship in her name at the University of Colorado, supporting students pursuing careers in healthcare. It's a small way of honoring her memory and ensuring that some good emerges from tragedy. Every year, a deserving student receives financial assistance to pursue their dreams of helping others, the same calling that motivated Ashley throughout her career. Her family rarely speaks publicly about the case. When they do, they emphasize Ashley's life rather than her death. They share stories about her garden, her grandchildren, her terrible jokes, her unfailing kindness. They refuse to let her be defined solely by how she died. She was so much more than a murder victim. Her daughter told a reporter in 2022, "She was a whole person with a full life." That's what I want people to remember. Justin's family faces a different kind of grief. They lost someone too, not to death, but to illness and incarceration. The Justin they knew is gone, replaced by a man sitting in a prison cell, chemically sedated, confronting the reality of what his damaged brain led him to do. They visit him occasionally. The conversations are difficult, painful. There's no redemption arc here, no Hollywood ending where Justin finds peace or purpose. There's just the grinding reality of decades in prison stretching ahead. Some former teammates have maintained contact with Justin. They send letters, commissary money. They struggle with the same questions everyone else does. How could this happen? Could we have prevented it? Did football do this? The answer to that last question seems increasingly obvious. Yes, football did this. Not in the sense that football forced Justin to commit murder. He made that choice, however impaired his judgment. But football created the conditions that made that choice possible. Football damaged Justin's brain so severely that his perception of reality shattered. And football continues to do the same thing to thousands of other players every year. It's been over 5 years since Ashley Amos died in that Boulder medical facility. The building still stands on Arapahoe Avenue. Patients still come and go. Staff members still provide care. But everyone who worked there that night carries the memory of what happened. Some transferred to other facilities. Some left healthcare entirely. Trauma has a way of reshaping lives and its image. The NFL continues to generate billions of dollars in revenue annually. Stadiums fill every Sunday. Fans cheer. Young men destroy their bodies and brains chasing dreams of glory. The league points to its improved safety protocols, its investment in research, its commitment to player health. Critics point to the fundamental, unchangeable nature of the sport and argue that no amount of modification can make intentional violent collision safe. Both are right. Justin Bannan will be eligible for parole in 2046. He'll be 67 years old. If released, He'll emerge into a world he barely recognizes, having spent a quarter century in prison. His NFL career will be ancient history. The teammates he played alongside will be approaching 80 years old. But that future is far away. For now, there's only the present, the slow passage of days in Sterling Correctional Facility, the weight of guilt, the chemical fog of psychiatric medications keeping paranoia at bay. Does Justin think about Ashley Amos? Every day, according to those who know him. Does he understand what he took from her family, from the world, as much as his damaged brain allows? Is he the monster some people believe him to be? Or is he something more complicated? A man broken by a sport we all celebrate, who lashed out in the grip of illness he couldn't control. Perhaps he's both. Perhaps we need to expand our capacity to hold multiple truths simultaneously. That Justin is guilty of murder and that he's a victim of systemic exploitation. That he deserves punishment and that he deserves compassion. That Ashley's death is his fault and that it's also the fault of a billion-dollar industry that chews up young men and spits out their broken bodies and damaged brains. In researching this case, I spoke with neurologists who study CTE, former NFL players living with cognitive decline, family members of victims, and perpetrators of violence linked to brain damage. One theme emerged consistently: the profound inadequacy of our systems, medical, legal, social, to address the reality of traumatic brain injury. We have no cure for CTE. We have limited ability to diagnose it while people are alive. We struggle to connect violent behavior to underlying neurological damage in ways that satisfy legal standards. We offer little support to families navigating the nightmare of watching loved ones mentally deteriorate. And we have no mechanism for holding accountable the institutions that profit from creating these damaged brains. The NFL will face more lawsuits. It will pay more settlements. It will implement more safety measures. But ultimately, the sport will continue because we want to continue. Because on autumn Sundays, we want to watch gifted athletes perform feats of strength and skill. Because we love the ritual and tradition and tribalism of football. We just don't want to think too hard about the price. Ashley Marie Amos was killed by Justin Bannan, but she was also killed by a system that treats human beings as expendable resources, that celebrates violence while disclaiming responsibility for its consequences. Her death should haunt us all, not just because of its brutality or randomness, but because of what it represents, the inevitable endpoint of a transaction we've all agreed to. We've agreed to watch men destroy themselves for our amusement. We've agreed that the entertainment value is worth the human cost. Ashley's blood is on Justin's hands, but it's on ours too. Every time we buy a ticket, watch a game, cheer for a bone-crushing hit, we're participating in the system that created Justin Bannan's damaged brain. We're complicit in the violence that flows from that damage. This is the uncomfortable truth at the heart of this story. And it's a truth we'll likely continue to ignore, because confronting it will require us to give up something we love. So football will continue. Young men will keep playing. Brains will keep getting damaged. Some will develop CT. A small percentage will become violent. And occasionally, another Ashley Amos will die. Another Justin Bannan will go to prison. And we'll all shake our heads at the tragedy of it all. Then Sunday will come, and we'll turn on the television and we'll watch. Because the game must go on. Please remember to subscribe to True Crime Zone. These stories deserve to be told, examined, and never forgotten. The lives of victims like Ashley Amos deserve to be honored. The complex realities of cases like Justin Bannan's deserve our careful consideration. Thank you for watching. This documentary is based on extensive research of court records, news reports, medical studies on CTE, interviews with family members and legal experts, and publicly available information about Justin Bannan's life and case. All facts have been verified through multiple sources. The interpretations and analysis presented represent one perspective on a complex case with no simple answers. Ashley Marie Amos, April 3rd, 1955 to October 16th, 2019. May her memory be a blessing.